Neighbor likes to park in front of my house. Okay then. This happened a few years ago. My neighbor started parking on the street behind my car, like literally inches, for no apparent reason. My neighbor has a driveway, empty, and also lived 2 houses down the street. I don't have a driveway, so on-street parking is a must for me. So, after a few weeks, I asked if it was necessary to park so close when there were literally no cars on the street for over a 1/4 mile. He said no. But there's no law against it, with a big shit-eating grin on his face. A few weeks pass by, and my car gets hit because someone thought there was enough room to clear as his truck blocked the view of my car entirely. I see this happen, but unfortunately, can't get a model or license plate number. I find my neighbor's email address, because I really didn't feel like talking to him, and asked him again, if he could just park further down the road, closer to his house. He replied nope. Suck on it. Okay. I had lived here for quite a long time, and never had any issues with him or any other neighbor. I keep to myself, never make noise, don't have any noisy pets or parties, etc. His truck has his business name on it. Google it. Find out it's his own business. Lots of Yelp reviews, BBB rating, etc. All these links point to his website. I go to check his website. It doesn't load up. I head over to whois and see that the domain isn't registered. I snag it. Before I think of what to do with it, I Google the owner's name and find out he's been convicted of murdering a child 20-ish years ago. I find a handful of links that details his story rather explicitly. I copy/paste all those links into an email to him, a throwaway account so he can't just reply to me as I deleted it afterward. Said something like, well, if you want to be a jerk for no reason, I just bought your business domain. Here's all the links I plan on posting on it. I don't have to list your business name because all of your business listings across the internet have this URL pointing to it. Keep parking like a jerk. Yes, it's legal. But you are willfully doing this just to annoy me. I legally bought your domain, and can legally link these articles. Park behind me again, and I'll launch it. Within an hour his truck was moved into his driveway. He asked me for the domain, and I told him when either you move, or I move, I'll hand it over. Until then it'll remain offline. Edit, only thing fake was the time frame. This happened last week, not a few years ago. He was originally charged with capital murder, but his lawyer convinced him of a plea deal for manslaughter because they have way more than enough to convict you of capital murder. Edit 2, for those saying this is fake. I'm putting my house on the market in 2 to 3 months. When it sells, I'll come back and post all the news articles as I won't be anywhere near here, so doxing will be much more difficult. Now to the comments. I never understood this phenomenon that causes people to play games with their cars. I moved out to the suburbs 3 years ago and have never seen it so prevalent when there's enough parking to accommodate 3x as many cars. In the city, people would be shitty sometimes because there's never enough spaces for everyone and you gotta take yours. But literally everyone has a garage/driveway and enough curbside space for 3 more cars out here. This could possibly be its own post. But in relation to your story, I'll type it here. A new neighbor moved in last winter, a house over from my connected neighbor, and we started to notice weird behavior. Nothing big, just dude liked to park in front of people's houses and then walk to his house real slow, or park directly on lawn. I have a corner property and can easily park 8 cars around the perimeter of my yard. Since I have a garage, I couldn't care less who parks around my house. But if it sticks out and looks like the person is going out of their way to be ignorant, it irks me a bit. Like when new neighbor man started parking real close to the entrance to the communal lot where my garage is located. I didn't really even care about that until I saw him get out of his car, check to see if was close enough to be a pain, then get back in and pull up closer. There's no reason to do that unless he wanted to purposefully be a dick. I asked my connected neighbor what his deal was and he had issues with him too, saying the guy was driving into our communal lot and over his grass to park in the backyard. I guess when he asked the arsehole not to do that, the guy got really angry that he couldn't reach his yard any other way. My neighbor told him just to reseed the grass he ducked up and there wouldn't be problems. But the arsehole refused. A few weeks later, I see the guy backing an old shitty collapsible trailer camper into our lot and across my neighbor's backyard. My neighbor was on vacation, so I called him and told what was going on, and he got super pissed, thanks me for the call, and said he'll fix this. After the camper was parked in the guy's yard, I started seeing construction in my neighbor's yard a day or two later. I guess he had decided to build a fence around his property, preventing the guy from driving over his grass and also making the guy's shitty camper a permanent yard ornament because there was no longer vehicle access to his yard. I've yet to see the guy take his camper apart piece by piece to remove it, but unless he pays to have my neighbor's fence removed and rebuilt, that's the only way it's gonna be moved. I had seriously the same thought. Why are some people so territorial about their vehicles to such an extreme degree? This whole situation appropriately reminds me of my next door neighbor growing up. My dad and him had some silly feud going on, where the neighbor would park just far enough away so you couldn't park a car between his vehicle and our driveway without blocking our driveway. I am talking 6-1. My dad asked him to park just a little further down and the guy was like, nope, it's a free country. My dad, being passive aggressive about the situation, would park so he was literally touching the guy's bumper and blocking the driveway. Until the day he bumped his car a little too hard and broke the license plate holder. Looking back at what came next boggles my mind as an adult. I was probably 14 to 15, home alone with my 12-year-old brother when there is a loud knock at our front door. It's the neighbor come to confront my dad about his broken license plate holder. He was visibly angry as he asked if my dad was home. I just responded nope and politely shut the door. There was a pause before he knocked again. This time he looked even more flustered. Is your mom here? He sputtered. I responded back with nope, she isn't home yet, and which he proceeded to start berating me about how my dad had broken his license plate holder, yada yada yada. I am not a huge fan of bullies, and this guy had the reputation of trying to bully other neighbors. His daughter was a little younger than me. We weren't close, but I knew she was afraid of him. This will be important later. So, I did what any 14 to 15-year-old boy would do to a bully. I talked back to him. To see the vein rise on this man's forehead was a thing of beauty. He went ballistic. Looking back, I'd call it idiot courage. A couple years prior, I had a major tragedy in my life. One of those things that makes you just not give a duck. This guy was being a prick and I wasn't going to take the high road. I wish I could give you a witty recap, but it was a long time ago. But I remember how the conversation ended. If you were my child, I would smack the shit out of you, he snarled at me. Well, good thing I am not your child. I threw it right back at him as I slammed the door. If I remember it correctly, he was still cursing at me as his wife tried to pull him down the driveway. My dad came home. He dealt with the neighbor and I got a stern talking to. A month or so later, there was a knock at the door when my parents weren't home. It was a police officer. The neighbor's daughter had run away and he wanted to know if I had any idea where she might be. I explained to the officer. We weren't that close. We had different social groups. The officer asked a couple more questions about the recent times we hung out. I answered as best I could. Then he got really serious all of a sudden and asked if I had ever seen marks or bruises. After pausing to think about it, I told him in all honesty I had no seen any marks or bruises on her. But he had threatened to smack the shit out of me. For some reason, the officer was really interested in my previous interactions with him. You can't decide if this is petty or pro-revenge, but the moral of the story is the same. Even if it's legal, don't be a dick. P.S. I never really found out what happened with the daughter. From what I recall, there was a rumor she went to live with her grandmother and I had enough sense not to ask. I believe the neighbor moved not long after. Why are some people so territorial about their vehicles to such an extreme degree? One has to wonder also why people are so territorial about the parking areas in front of their house. No problem in any states where people have to clear snow to keep their parking spaces free, but some of these people move to California or Hawaii and then try to bring that custom with them. People in these states are often confused at hearing, "Why are you parking in front of my house?" I think you're going to have a very nice and quiet neighbor from here on. He would have to be crazy to cross you for any reason at this point. He murdered a child. I wouldn't put crazy past him.